And let's begin. So I had this little epiphany that's not new to me, but I remember last week I was working with remembrance and forgetfulness and how that's part of the design. And it always reminds me that, oh yeah, I forget these things and then I come back to them. So, amid all of the regular stress and crisis and everything that's going on, I also find myself in this little corner project-wise. So I have a number of projects in my museum consulting business that have come due, and they're all kind of due in 2 weeks. And then I thought I was going to launch a new mini pranayama online course during this same time. And then I have this little issue with one of my museum colleagues that I pretty much caused inadvertently, but now that I look back, I see, oh, there's all these places you could have caught this. And now this week I have to have this relatively difficult, I mean, we're friends and we'll work it out, but it's not something I'm looking forward to admitting how badly I messed it up. But at any rate, I found myself just kind of beating myself up. So in drum meditation on Friday, I was lying there and I did what I sometimes do when I try to relax, is I was trying to levitate off the ground, and I noticed everything was just tense and I was just as stiff as a board. I think there was nothing going on there. And I was in my mind going through all these things. What am I going to do? How am I going to do this? I'm going to do that. I was just letting the list roll, and I didn't interrupt it for some reason. And then it occurred to me, probably about 20 minutes in, that I was in a meditation session. And that maybe, also what was going on while I was trying to solve the problems, I was also bringing out the big stick and let's beat up on me day. Yeah, that's it, Sherry. About yourself, you have no room to complain, you're a bad person, you're, everything I could bring out of the box. I know I'm the only one that does that, but at any rate, as I hit that I don't know if it was 20 minutes, but it kind of felt that way. I'd been doing this for quite a while. And I just took a breath and I said, I'd been looking through some possible themes for today, and the one about you are enough, the Purna, you're full, you're whole, you're enough, kind of crossed the desk, and I shoved it away and was thinking, I hadn't decided, but I laid there and I said, yeah, that's the one. As soon as I started saying that, some part of that mantra, you are enough, you are whole, you're complete, you know how to deal with this. You've done it before. You've been in this place before. You know how to do this. You are equal to this task. As soon as I started doing that, then I spent a little bit of time saying, oh, there's a couple of things you can move off. You don't have to start the breath course this week. Really, it's not written in stone. You can move that along. You've got election work, poll work. It's like there's just things that you can do. And suddenly, so what I did was I paused and reflected. Once I said I was enough, that I'm equal to the task, I paused, I did a little reflection and a kind of recounting of what the issues really were, not the solutions, but the issues. And then I stopped and I got some perspective and I said, none of this is brain surgery. No one's going to die. If I don't get these things done on time, what can I move around? What can I shift? Because my well-being is more important than this kind of screaming, killing, kicking, screaming. So we'll work with that enoughness, because maybe that's happened for you guys sometimes. I know it has for some. But the Tantra concept in Sanskrit is Purna, and it means pure and complete wholeness, fullness, enoughness. Now there's a Sanskrit word, whenever you put a or a in front of some of the words, apurna means not fullness, but that doesn't mean emptiness. It essentially means you're not enough, it's not full. Shunyata is pure emptiness, and that's a beautiful place to be, that sense of total and complete ease. So we're working with Purna today. And it helps, when things are going well, it's really easy to say life is good. But when things get a little tense, even the slightest little tense, but when they really start to gang up, like I just see myself backed into a corner, then you begin to accept that you are enough during this place that I caused some of this backing into the corner. There were some things I could control and some I couldn't. And so I had a role in this. I had a hand in this. And the question I have to ask myself is that, can I accept life even when I'm sitting in this little dark corner? And can I trust that even though I'm sitting in the darkness right now, that the light will come, that it's a cycle, that it will come, it will go. And can I accept that I'm resisting accepting? So sometimes it's like, no, 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 but I have to. So that's that little game I play in there. So the work starts by being enough and making space for others to be enough. So on the mat, in stressful situations, we tense, right? So I was levitating off the mat, or trying to. I didn't realize it, but I just took a breath and everything just settled down. And so a lot of times what happens is we're really tight in the hips. And also because Jerry's in class today and he spent 3-4 days driving, he's a tiny bit tight. So it's for all of us to kind of work deeply in the hips and notice what comes out, like what can get resolved, what can you move around, where can you make more space for that sense of fullness. So close your eye if you haven't already. Draw your palms together in front of your heart center. When we resolve to embrace our enoughness, our fullness, we reside in the heart and relax back into our true nature, which is a sense of spaciousness, well-being, joyfulness. Let's chant Om, inhale, exhale, cleansing breath. And inhale to Om. Release your hands, flutter your eyes open, and come to your mat. Oh, Sherry and Mary, I think you guys have a ball, a tennis ball, a lacrosse ball on hand. Yep, I'm pretty sure you did. All right, so the first thing we'll do is you'll sit on your knees, take one blanket and roll it up. You notice I'm on my round lily pad today. So we'll see how this works. I've done it once. It's a little disconcerting. All right, roll it up tight. And because we'll be sitting in the hero pose, you might want to kneel on a blanket. Then take this little love, shove it, cram it up into your knee, right in close to your knee crease, and get a nice little wake-up call for the morning. Really push it back, hold it back as you sit back on it. Now, Jerry, because the top of your feet are really, really tight, you might want to get a third blanket and put a roll under your ankles right here. You okay? All right. I don't know about you, but yeah. So one of the first things I noticed when I sat back on this little guy, and yes, can lean slightly forward if it's intense, was that one calf is considerably barking more than the other. And it might even be, it's also pressing up to your hamstrings, and one hamstring might be more, you may just say, it's so intense, I can't tell the difference. But for me, definitely tell that my left side is much more tight. So you can rock back and forth. And then notice, yes, so Debbie has a good option there. She's put the blocks here so she doesn't have to crunch her shoulders, can relax. And if that helps give you some stability and maybe lift off the pain a little bit. That's right, that's yeah. You can come in and out of it. Oh, man, that side. So give the side that feels tightest, if there is one, a little more joy. Calf smash. This helps because it's breaking up some of the tight, if there's tight fascia, and there is for most all of us, on the back of down the back of the legs, that will prevent us from stretching the hamstrings a bit. All right. And then roll the roll just about an inch down to where it goes right as the calf muscle. It's kind of this, it attaches right above the Achilles tendon. So you don't want it on the ankles, but right at the very bottom of the calf muscle. And just see if that's any more interesting. And here that we're feeling the fullness of the sensation. And thinking too, at least I am, how good this will feel when we stop. Oh. All right. Move the block out of the way and just do a couple of cat-cows just to let some blood come back into the calves. Rounding and arching with the breath. So as you exhale, tuck your tailbone, lift your waistline, bow your head. As you inhale, lift your sits bones, slide your shoulder blades down the back, draw the collarbones forward. And do a few of those. Make a few circles, one way, and then the other. And then one little adaptation I've learned from taking classes from Maria that I like is if you're forward, your hips are still facing the short edge of the mat. Walk the hands just a foot or two to the right. If you had a little PVC pipe or a wooden towel stuck to the frontal hip bones, they would still be parallel with the short edge of the mat, but the shoulders are off at an angle. And then round and arch here. And notice that you'll stretch out some of the left side and back muscles differently. Oh. Then inhale back into the center. Hips facing forward, walk a little bit off to the left and round and arch here. Just notice what's going on. All right. Sit on your bum. Find your hardball, as Debbie said when she came in and said, oh, we're playing hardball today. And you can do, we'll do this here, or you can also come down here if you want. But let the ball find a little home under one bum. Just pick one. We only got two. We'll probably get to both. And then the other leg. So right now it's under my right bum. Then my left leg is the one that's pushing. The right leg is the one that's relaxing. So whatever side your ball is on, that's the leg that just let it go. The other leg works. Yeah, and even, Debbie, sometimes I even like, since you've got this roll here, it's nice, or on a bolster, to rest there so the elbows don't get quite, takes you off your hands a little bit. It doesn't necessarily change how painful this is. So dig in, search and destroy, as we say. And find a spot that, and roll all the way up just to the edge of the pelvic bone in the back and see how that feels. And then roll along the top of the rim of the pelvis in the back and come to the side. Roll over on the side. Ow. Find some spots there. You enjoying this, Jer? Breathing? Okay. And then roll towards right over the hip socket there on the side. Oh, the moaning, gyrating, that's the fun part. Oh. And then release. And just sit up for a moment. And notice, first of all, the sense of fullness that comes from being off the ball, because you can feel the tingling, the blood flowing through that side. It just feels more full, more ready to move. Change to side B. So the side you're working is the relaxed one. So it can either stay bent or straight, but try not to engage it because it will hurt more if you try to engage the muscle and rub it out with the ball as well. So while we do engage the muscles when we stretch, this is not so much a stretch as a deep tissue massage. And we know, right, Debbie, that if your muscles are tense when you're getting a massage, it's not so good. Yeah. Oh, and roll up towards the top of the pelvis, just under the rim, and just skirt just under the rim there at the top of the pelvis. Oh, over to the side. Ow. And notice this side. Do you flinch and scream on the same spots or different spots? Oh, for me, that side, upper side, is kind of, and then work towards, to the side, down towards the hip socket. Oh, between, oh, yes. Find your spot, work it, explore. If it's all just painful, then it means you need to do this a few mornings for about a week, even just for a minute or two would help. Oh, and release. All right, both are ready. Come to hands and knees. So you may strap today. It's kind of a, whether you want it or not, so we have it there in case. Tuck the toes of the right foot, slide it back. Connect with the hands. The hands push into the earth, and you draw up from the earth into the shoulder socket, and then hug the shoulders onto the back and slide them down the back towards the waistline. Lift your side ribs towards the ceiling and engage the core, front and back core, so the tailbone lengthens. Now, pull the toes, the right toes stay on the floor, and you're pulling the toes towards the hands, and the right heel is pushing away, and then extend the left arm. So the leg's not lifting yet. And then imagine that you have a big elephant sitting on the back of your right thigh, and then slowly lift it, only just hover it off the ground. Keep the core engaged, soften the heart, and release. Ooh, shift back. Oh. And come into child's pose and flex your wrist like you're giving the top of your mat a high five, and push out from the heart through the hands to release anything that was going on in the wrist. Come back up to table. Tuck the toes of the left foot, slide it back. So pull the left toes and push the left heel back to engage the muscles around the bones. Keep that. Check your hand position, spread the fingers, claw the floor, shift the weight all the way around the whole circumference of the hand, not the outside. In fact, try to energetically lift your outer heel of your hand, lift it, but imagine you could, and you'll notice the whole arm has to work more, the hands have to work more. Soften the heart and stretch your right arm forward. If you lost the core, reset the core, tailbone to xiphoid, lift your side ribs, keeping that, soften the heart, and as you lift that 3-ton elephant, the toes just barely clear the floor, like they may still kiss the floor, but there's no weight on them. You're not lifting it, but you're trying to lift it. And release. Well done. Sit back and make circles with your wrist, one way and then the other. Nice. All right, come back to table, make a wide table, ready for dog. Hands in front of the shoulders, knees about a handprint distance behind the hips. Tuck your toes, shift your hips back, and unfurl into downward facing dog. Walk your dog, pedaling the feet, stretching out. Then bend your knees, inner thighs move wide apart and back as the sits bones to the ceiling. Lengthen the tailbone, lift your side ribs towards the ceiling, hug the shoulder blades on the back, and inhale into plank. Keep hugging the shoulder blades onto the back ribs. Exhale, lift into dog. Keep your knees bent as you need to. No need to straighten and overstress the back. With the inhale, shift forward. Exhale, back. Inhale, forward. Exhale.
Inhale forward and exhale back. Pause there. Step your feet together, close together. Now, as we lift the right leg, as you lift your right leg, lift it with that, like you've got 5 sandbags hanging over the back of your legs. Lift it with some resistance, straight behind you, keeping the hips level. So imagine that little wooden dowel of duct tape to each of your frontal hip bones, your as-is bones, and it's parallel, and the dowel is parallel to the floor. Then bend the right knee. Now, keeping the shoulders level, imagine there's a little dowel across the top of the back of the shoulders as well, not tipping. The tendency here as you open the knee is to tip the left shoulder. So open, and lift the left armpit even more. And then square it back up and swing your right leg forward into straight leg lunge. Pause here, slide a blanket. We'll do a knee down version in a bit. But scissor the legs, light on the fingertips, and breathe. Exhale, lower the knee down, keep the back toes tucked, and scissor the legs so there's not a lot of weight on the back leg. You're still engaging the muscles of the back leg. Hands to the front front thigh. Hips. Scissor the legs, pull the side ribs back like you're bowing in slightly, not collapsing, pulling back. And then keeping that as the tailbone goes down, the shoulders come back up over the hips. Arms up and come into full beach babe pose. Elbows slightly forward, soften the heart and curl back. Push the head into the hand. Push it, scissor the legs. Tailbone is really long and go deep, go full. Be fully present. You know how to do this. You know how to take care of your body and go deep. Oh. Release. Now here's where you may want your strap, or you can do it in the first version is to bend the back knee. I find this one harder because I start to clench the back hamstring. Reach back with the opposite hand. So bend it, reach back, and work around. You can lasso it with a belt. So Debbie, here's a way that I get into it easier without cramping. Lean back like you're doing a runner stretch. Bend the knee, reach back, take hold. Got it? You got it? Now walk the hand out and come in. If you've got the foot, hold on to the baby toe side or the heel's good. Grabbing, Debbie's got this, which is good. That works well. I like that. And open the heart. So twist. They require a lot of us, and yet then there's a sense of opening at the end, sense of fullness. And release. Do a stretch where you're straightening the front legs. You can bring the blocks on either side of you. Lengthen the spine as the inner thighs move back and apart. You can deepen this. You can, keep the volume where it is as you want to. Walk your hands to the outside of the front leg. So your hands are on the outside of the shin, the front leg, on this side of the outside. There you go. Push the arm into the outside of the leg and the leg pushes into the outside. You can take the blocks over, Jerry. Take both blocks over to the side. There you go. Now lengthen. So as you draw the inner thighs apart and they go back towards the foot behind you, and the sits bones try to lift, the tailbone lengthens, pulling the belly button up towards the spine, and the heart stretches even farther away from the hips. Whew. And release. Yeah, it's called a hamstring stretch. All right, side B. Step your left foot forward. You can have your lasso ready as you need it. All right. So first into the lunge. With the knee scissor in, soften the heart. Lower the back down, bring both hands on the thigh. So you can come into full beach babe or half beach babe if you're feeling tippy. You can start with the back leg arm, the right arm comes up, takes hold behind the head,
Then if the other one fine works, bring the elbows together. You're not spreading the elbows apart. They're pulling together and you're sucking the armpit back. That helps you pull the shoulder blades firmly, fully on the back. And then scissor the legs more, and you forgot, tailbone lengthens, belly button in. Side ribs move towards the back body as the heart lifts up and arcs back. You can even shift your hips a tiny bit forward. Woo. And breathe. And release. Come down. Bend the knee. I like to walk back for it till I can get it, then come back up. You can have the front hand on a block if you need a little more. That gives you a little more space to have the front hand on a block. Yeah, get it. There it is. You got it. I know it's back there somewhere. Oh. And then scissor the legs again. Spread through both feet. Push through both feet. Oh. And O heart. So at least do a twist, even if you're not lifting the back leg, without letting the front knee rock out. Keep it steady. Here you go. Just open to this glorious day. Quite kind of humid and interesting, almost tropical. And release. Come into the runner stretch. You can use blocks, walking back so the back is long, not rounded. Blocks high, middle, or low. Flex the foot, the front foot. Pull the front foot back. The left heel moves back as you step on the gas with the left toes. Then the inner thighs move back and wide apart as the sits bones try to lift up to the ceiling. And countering that, because we don't want to get too wild, the tailbone lengthens, belly button lifts up and in. For a little deeper stretch, bring your hands and or your blocks with you. Oh, and then the right arm is pushing against the outside of the left leg, the front leg, and legs pushing back so you can widen the inner thighs even more, softening the heart. Breathe. And release. Step back, downward facing dog. Or child's pose, that's always an option.
Second side of three-legged dog, maybe?
Thank you. So that would be, Mary said, second side of three-legged dog. Absolutely. Lift your left leg high behind you. Bend the left knee without dropping the right shoulder. Open the left knee, open the left hip, like you're stacking the hip on top of the hips on top of each other. But the right shoulder wants to collapse mightily. So lift the right armpit even more. Oh. And next, inhale. Bring it back down and come to your knees. Right. We'll need the two blocks for you. We'll do the big lizard. So, okay. Have the blocks in front of you. Step your left leg forward and your arms, left arm's on the inside of the left leg. Tuck your back toes, lift the back knee and wiggle it back, way back. Walk the back foot over to the right just about an inch and the left foot over to the left about an inch. So you're a little outer hip width apart, maybe a little beyond. Oh. Start with the blocks high and shoulder width apart, outer shoulder width apart, because that will help you soften between the shoulder blades. If the blocks are close together, you tend to round the upper back. So the farther the blocks are from each other, the more space, the more ability you give the back of the body, the sense of space it needs to hug the shoulder blades on the back. Now you can turn your front foot out just a bit, not a lot, but just out, if that helps relieve some tight hips. So play with that. That's a little bit of control there.
to move that. Keep the front knee right over the ankle. So it wants to roll out. So it means you push on the inner edge of the foot a little bit more. And soften between the shoulder blades. If the head's dropping below the shoulders, you're back. So you need to back the hips up a little bit so you can get a little lift, but still taking the inner thighs back, particularly on the back leg. Front leg, not so much, but you're pretending it's going there. Tailbone lengthens as the sits bones lift up. Then soften between the shoulder blades. So if you're rounding the upper back, just back your hips up a tiny bit and breathe. Find some softness here. So notice, this is where we often grip the hands very tightly. And if the hands are gripped, often the jaw is gripped as well. There's a lot of praying going on here sometimes too. Find softness in the hands, into it. Relax into the fullness of your tight. So remember that question, can you accept that you're not ready to accept that you're not ready to release? I mean, it's sort of a convoluted way to think about it, but it's, can we forgive ourselves for not being ready to forgive? Can we accept ourselves for not being ready to accept? There's a fullness there. So wherever your hips are right now, look what you're doing, you're moving, how miraculous. The people who can't even get out of their chair. All right, now you can take the blocks, but put them down on their lowest and walk them out at an angle from your hips. So the knees still pointing forward or a tiny bit off to the left, and then reach out and come down, or you can have the hands on the blocks, pushing out this way. A little bit of an angle. So things require some time for us to release what's going on in the hip, release the fighting, release the holding of the breath. So let the breath flow into all the places that are tight. And then come back to center. Take a moment before we move into side B to walk your hands back to your toes and either come into half forward bend or full forward bend, and notice the difference between the two sides. Yeah. And then walk your hands back out, come back down, lower the back knee, step your forward straight leg lunge. I mean, not straight leg lunge, but forward. And widen the back foot and knee a little off to the left, and the front foot and knee a little off to the right. So you're a little outside of the hips, not quite mat width, but close to it. So Jerry, walk your back knee over a bit more. Yeah. Like you're trying to pull the wishbone apart. Now scissor the legs, the back leg's still working. And then just breathe for a moment. You can stay up on the hands and soften the shoulder blades. Notice the tendency to rock to the outside edge of the front foot. That gives some of the intensity away. Keep the intensity, the whole package, the full package of intensity. Breathe into it. Inner thighs are moving back towards your back foot and wide apart. Try to widen your inner thighs, muscular, and then into that space, drop the tailbone, lengthen it, lengthen the low back, the belly button, the belly lifts and firms. Keeping that, you can stay here and soften between the shoulder blades, or come down on the high blocks. And you can slowly work your way lower if you're feeling a little perkier today, but the blocks are wider than shoulder width apart. Wider, Jerry, wide, as wide as you can get them. And then that gives you room, space to soften between the shoulder blades. Hug the shoulder blades on the back, nice. Relax the hands, relax the jaw. Relax the eyeballs. Sometimes I get into tough eyes, try to bug out of their sockets. Oof. And breathe, full, whole, complete breaths in and out. And if this gets so intense and you drop the head and round the upper back, back the hips up a bit and lengthen the spine more, dropping the head, but by trying to bounce the crown off the wall in front of you. And then I suggest turning the blocks low on this, so you can either come out this way, or use your hands and work deep. You can come down onto your forearms, onto the blocks if that's easier, or less stress on the wrist. And release back. Come in to face dog. And then shift forward. Lower all the way down to the floor. And you might, before you get there, now I tell you, put a ball on either side of you for sort of chameleon, half frog, as long as I'm on the lily pad. I've got a hair here, it will not stay back. All right. And then draw your left knee, right angle at the knee, right angle at the ankle. Tuck the back toes. It's escaping. Must mean the floor's not level, I guess, right? The ball's rolling downhill. All right. So here's an option. If this feels intense on your back, yes, you can come all the way down, stack your hands on top of each other, and rest your forehead. But you do want to feel something in the back so that you're not working. And then engage the legs, spread through the soles of the feet, and hug the legs together. It's as though your straight leg's trying to move over towards the left, and your bent leg, the right leg, is trying to close back in. Then pull the shoulder blades on the back, and as the tailbone's lengthening down towards your right heel, the collarbones are stretching forward, forward, forward. Pull the belly button up and in. It's airbag for the low back. So if the low back hurts here, it means that the abdominal muscles are not supporting you. So the belly, it's almost like an airbag. It pushes back into the front of the spine there in the low back to help lengthen the space between the cervical disc. And then you can do any version of a twist. Cross your right arm in front of you, left hand perches up, and you look over towards your bent leg. And then twist the other way, and you turn to look away from the bent leg. And try not to do the twist with the head. The tendency to twist the head and stress the neck is strong within me, and I've seen it strong within a lot of people. So make it come from the torso. You're sliding the ribs around. Tailbone is really engaged. Belly button is lifted. Low belly's engaged so you don't ping the low back. And then release, stretch out both legs. Rest your forehead on your hands. Windshield wiper the legs. And then come back up onto your forearms. Second leg, bring it out. Flex the foot, so right angle, right angle, right angle from the hip crease, knee, ankle. Pat it as you need. Come up onto your forearms. Hug the elbows towards each other and pull the elbows back, hips, collarbones come through. The legs are engaged, so if you let go of the legs, you're trying to hug the legs towards each other. Lift your belly button off the floor. Lengthen the tailbone long. Pull the belly up into the low back like an airbag to not let it pinch, and then pull the through.
Let the back of the neck be soft and relaxed. And then a twist. You can twist towards the leg. So it's just like you're kind of lizardly saying, what's back there? And inhale back to the other side. Nice. It's not a deep, strong twist, but it's a twist. It's moving, making sure that the spine, the rib cage is doing all it can to do. If we don't use it, we lose it. And then stretch back, rest your head, bend your knees, windshield wiper your legs. Push back into a child's pose. Oh, knees apart. Toes wide, toes together. And Jerry, rest your head on a block because it's dropping too far below your shoulders. I'd bring the block up. Raise the block. There you go. Now soften the heart. Oh, yeah. Makes a huge difference to keep the head in line with the spine. It's not wrong to drop the head down, but if your tendency is to already round the upper back, then we give it things to do that are not necessarily what it does all day. So the heart center, the sternum, is making its way to the floor faster than anything else in the upper body. And then from here, just lift up a bit and thread your right arm underneath you. And you can use the block either low or high to rest on as you stretch over. Oh, reach it way, reach the right arm's way reaching for something on the other side of you that wants it. Very much needs and wants. And then in the armpit, pull away from what the hand is reaching. You get a big stretch across the side back body. Oh. Rest the head on a block on a middle or high level or low. Well, middle or low, probably. And then come back up and just pause a moment. Notice the difference. And thread the other arm under. You're working it through. Rest your head. You can turn your head towards the right or whatever direction your fingers are reaching for. Not to twist it, but just to rest on the side of the head. And then as the fingers, the hands reaching for what you want and need, the armpit's pulling back, the left armpit is pulling back in, the left head of the arm bone is pulling back like you're trying to lengthen your arm. Somebody's pulling the wrist and somebody's pulling you back at the head of the arm bone. Oh. And inhale, release. Come to lie on your back. You might want to have your strap near you for this. It's optional. All right. With the knees bent, this is constructive rest position. There's a couple of versions. Regular one is just knees about hip width apart, feet about hip width apart. The low back's curving slightly off the floor. You're dropping the sits bones toward heels, like all position, and lift your shoulder blades a bit and snuggle them underneath you. That's hugging the shoulder blades on the back. The heart lifts a bit. Another version of constructive rest is to turn your toes in a bit, pigeon toe them, move the heels out, and the knees knock together. Now, how far away from your hips, you kind of have to play with that to see where's the most constructively restful position there. And if you walk the feet too far apart from each other, I find that becomes not so restful. If they're too close, same thing. So you find that little Goldilocks, the place in the middle where the low back is off the floor, just at least beginning to move away from the floor. Then the belly button can drop like you have a sinker weight on your belly button. It's dropping the belly button to the line without the low back moving in. moving closer to the floor. And on your next inhale, come back to neutral position. So the knees, hips, feet, hip, knees are in alignment. And draw your right knee towards the chest and hold on behind the right thigh. Now you can take the strap behind here, depending on people who have particularly long torsos and shorter arms. This makes them roll their shoulders. So the idea is that the shoulder blades need to be snug nicely on the back. Not the head of the arm bones really tacking down to the floor. And if you're either very tight in the hips or the proportion needs the strap, use the strap. And as you push the thigh into the hands or the strap or the hands pull the thigh away. So the knee is straight over the hip. It's not very close to the chest. Otherwise, you'll lose your low back curve. Then flex your left foot and push a heavy concrete block along the floor with the whole sole of the foot until the back of the left thigh starts to move closer to the floor. You can let the right knee come away from the chest a little bit to get the back of the left thigh on the floor. And then holding on to the back of the thigh with the strap or the hands, begin to straighten. And it may not go fully straight, but begin to straighten. And then do little sort of mini push-ups. So you micro bend and push up. The knee's not coming forward, the foot drops down. So it's just, the thigh bone stays right where it is. The thigh bone does not move backward, just the shin, the lower leg. Then bend the knee, place the right foot on top of stretch the arms out in a T position. I have to rebend the left, bump my hips over to the right, and then straighten the left leg again so I can get over into a side twist. The right knee drops towards the left. You can use your left hand to hold the outside of the right knee, give it a little weight, a little ballast. So as you're pulling the right knee towards the floor, it probably isn't going to touch, and then pull the outer right hip crease back away from the direction your knee is pointing. Both shoulder blades snuggle onto the floor, onto the back, and evenly weighted on the floor. And the ribs start to turn back to the right. The head can go with it as long as you're not straining the neck. And inhale, come back up to center. Come back to neutral. Tilt your hip so the low back is off the floor, shoulder blades on the floor. Draw the left knee just up enough to where you can either slide a strap behind the thigh or your hands. And you don't have to interlace the hands behind the thigh. You can just hold on either side, even spreading the hamstring group apart back there. It's kind of nice for it too. And you can hold as low down the thigh as you need. With the knee bent, push the thigh into the hands into the thigh. If you're starting to get the shoulders too much into this, meaning the shoulders, the head of the arm bones are moving up towards the ceiling or up towards the knees, you need to either give yourself some more space by putting the strap behind your thigh or just not working so hard. Get the head of the arm bones down so you don't collapse the low back. Push the thigh bone into the hands into the thigh. And then slowly push a heavy concrete block. The heel stays on the floor as you push the right leg straight, working the back of the right thigh to the floor. You have to tilt the hips a fair bit to get that. Tilt the sits bones towards the floor. And then straighten or straighten-ish the left leg. And then do tiny little bend, straighten, micro moves, nothing big. And the thigh bone stays straight up and down. The knee's not coming forward and back. It's just the foot's, the foot, somebody was talking loudly going by the front door. kicked my focus off a bit. Okay, stretch and straight. And then, I didn't give this instruction before. Bend both knees, bump your hips over to the left, straighten the right leg. The left knee is bent with the left foot on the top of the right thigh, and then drop the left knee over to the right, arms out in T position. The right hand can hold on to the outside of the left knee, pulling the knee over as the outer left hip crease is pulling back and away. The ribs rotate off to the left, both shoulder blades as evenly on the floor as you can get them. The head can gently look to the left, but not with tension. The hips are roughly stacked on top of each other, and the shoulders are evenly weighted on the floor for a nice deep twist. And release. Come back out, even out. Stretch both legs long, both arms long, stretch it out. And then for final relaxation, you can do regular Shavasana, or since it won't be that long, I recommend a nice supported fish. You can turn the block this way. So this is the way Maria likes to do it, with the block low and the head block medium. I like this way, but both ways. And there anything in between. Get the lights. And settle in. Yeah, so I like this. But this is also a way some people like to do it that way. And then this fits right in between shoulder blades, about T12, Debbie. I love talking with Debbie because when I say T12, she knows what I'm talking about. She's a massage therapist. And then settle in. The knees can stay bent, so you can do constructive rest position here with the heels out, the toes in, and the knees knocked together. It's a nice passive psoas release. Or the legs can be straight. And you'll notice in the supported fish position, getting the back of the thighs on the floor, super easy because your hips are tilted, sits bones moving down, and the as-is bones, frontal hip bones, moving up and towards the ceiling. And you settle. Breathe in the fullness of the breath. And exhale fullness, enoughness, wholeness. So pure fullness and pure emptiness are enough. We want both. A feeling of wholeness. Begin to deepen your breath. And bring gentle movement to your fingers, your hands, feet and toes. Bend your knees. And if you're still up on the blocks, gently move yourself, and everybody draw your knees in and roll to your side. And rest here, curled up in your own arms. It's releasing fully, completely into this moment. And then rolling a little more towards the floor. Use the strength of your arms to come up to a seated position and sit well. Draw your palms together in front of your heart center. And carry with you a little mantra: you are enough. You are whole. You are complete. You are always. You are perfectly imperfect, moving more and more towards perfectly imperfect. Namaste.